And as you know, when these types of things happen, you must know that we will not tolerate this kind of violence in our city.
And first at 4, D.C.'s police chief giving her thoughts after a terrifying turn for one of her officers as he was making his way to work. Someone in another car got out and started shooting at the officer while he was in his car, setting off a chase that ended with a crash and arrest in Prince George's County.
And the good news is that officer has what's being described as non-life-threatening injuries. We have team coverage tonight of this wild story that has a lot of questions. We start with Rebecca Turco, who spoke with some residents. Rebecca, how is everyone reacting to this?
Well, it's certainly a lot to take in for the people I've been able to speak with today. Really, they're just wrapping their heads around all of this. They say this isn't really a common occurrence in this area and very much still an active scene. I actually want to show you what we're seeing at the moment. Police still at the scene here, and we're counting at least 4 evidence markers that we can see from our vantage point. Several blocks are blocked off as authorities continue their investigation hours later. We also want to show you what the scene looked like a little bit earlier, where even more streets had been blocked off as authorities were beginning their investigation. The whole ordeal happened just after noon today on 7th Street over by Nicholson and between Oglethorpe. Police tell us a captain was heading into work in his personal car when he saw a car ahead of him driving erratically. Well, then we're told that car stopped and a man got out and shot the officer. That captain was able to get a partial plate number and actually drove himself to the 4th District Police Station nearby. We're told police were able to track the suspect's car over in Landover. That's where it crashed, and authorities took 2 people into custody. We caught up with one neighbor earlier who says she heard those gunshots while she was outside with her dog.
We just heard about 3 shots at the corner of Oglethorpe and 7, and then immediately saw a large black SUV with completely dark tinted windows speed down the street, and then they immediately made a right onto 6 and kind of sped off.
And as for that police captain, he is recovering in the hospital, and thankfully we're told he's expected to be okay. We're working together even more details on this ongoing investigation. For now, reporting live in Northwest, Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
And this wild chase ended with the suspects crashing the car in Prince George's County. And our team coverage continues now with Maryland Bureau Chief Brad Bell. He is live at the scene of that crash now investigation. Brad, what are you learning about this and what is behind you?
Yeah, so look, here we are. This is Landover Road behind me, Dodge Park Road. This is where the crash happened. We were told this was a fairly long pursuit. Police really got a good look at this car pretty quickly after the shooting, and they were following it out here. We understand that there were several Metropolitan Police cars in pursuit when the car they were chasing crashed. That is one of the 2 suspects wanted for shooting the MPD officer in handcuffs, being searched by Prince George's police. He stands just feet away from the blue Honda the pair crashed at the end of a pursuit out of the district and into Maryland. Both suspects taken to a hospital for checkups for very minor injuries from the crash. According to police sources, both suspects are 21 years old. Witnesses describe seeing the car running south on 202 with several police cars chasing, ending up on its side after crashing into another vehicle. Just before the crash, officers seeing the passenger toss a gun out the window, a police dog finding it very quickly in the tall grass along the road, a crime scene technician picking it up to package as evidence. Yes, we've looked closely at that video we got of that gun. It appears to be, what we call a ghost gun, an unserialized gun put together from a kit. You can tell oftentimes by the green color. So the car has been towed away. The scene here is completely clear. The police have reopened the roadway. They're going to take that car back and go over it. But so far, they believe they've got the 2 suspects that they were looking for. They have the gun. And so far, only 1 gun found. And in that car, we were told by sources, a pretty significant amount of marijuana as well. Landover, Brad Bell, 7 News.
All right, Brad, thank you. Stay with 7 News for continuing coverage of this story.
With more on that breaking story we've been covering since our noon hour, after a Metropolitan Police officer was shot on his way to work.
And the officer was shot while in his personal car near 7th Street and Oneida Place Northwest. That was only a few blocks from the 4th District station where the officer drove himself and was then rushed to the hospital.
Now, 2 persons of interest are now in custody after a police chase into Maryland. MPD Chief Pamela Smith says the officer is expected to be okay.
It could have been anybody, right? It didn't necessarily have to be a Metropolitan Police Department officer. And as you know, when these types of things happen, you must know that we will not tolerate this kind of violence in our city. We will use every resource, as we have been with any incident, to ensure that no one gets away with this type of crime.
And we've had team coverage on this story all day. 7 News reporter Rebecca Turco and Maryland Bureau Chief Brad Bell are joining us now live.
We'll go first to Rebecca, who spoke with a witness about that chaotic scene.
Good evening. Well, she certainly couldn't believe it when she heard those gunshots ring out. She said she heard 3 gunshots, and 7th Street here was blocked off for about 4.5 hours for several blocks while police investigated. It was only cleared maybe about half an hour ago. We want to show you, though, what the scene looked like earlier today, really in the thick of it all. This whole ordeal happened after noon today. Police tell us the captain was heading into work in his personal car when he saw another car driving erratically. We're told that car stopped and a man got out of the car, went up to the captain's car and shot him. Now we're told that captain was able to get a partial plate number and actually drove himself to the 4th District Police Station nearby, and police were able to track the suspect's car over to Landover where it crashed, and authorities took 2 suspects into custody. So we got up with one woman a little earlier who says she heard those 3 gunshots ring out while she was outside with her dog, and then she saw a black SUV speed off, a car matching the description of that captain's car.
I feel like it's been so chaotic recently in the district. My husband and I jokingly said, maybe it's time we move to the suburbs, which is sad because we love living here. I hope it's a reality check for the district.
As for the injured police captain, we're told he's recovering in the hospital tonight and that he is expected to be okay. We are continuing to follow this story and canvass the area really to check in with neighbors, see what they've seen and heard. We'll have the very latest coming up at 6, and we'll keep you posted when we get more updates. For now, reporting live in Northwest D.C., Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. Brad Bell is in Landover, where 2 men were taken into custody after police tracked down a car that ended up crashing and overturning.
And Brad, you were there. You saw someone as they were being detained.
Yeah, that's exactly right, at the end of this pursuit. But I got to tell you, just a minute ago, I got a pretty full briefing from a source about this shooting that happened in the district. Truly bizarre. The narrative is that this officer was driving to work, as you said, and then this car was behind, then sideways, then in front, slamming on the brakes. There was sort of this cat and mouse thing. The police officer pulled out his cell phone to start recording that vehicle. That's when the car stopped. The guy walked up and shot. The officer saying that there was no exchange of words or anything. It was bizarre, but as Rebecca said, he was able to get that partial license plate. That was plugged into the system. Then license plate readers in the district started sounding off, saying, look, here's the car. They got the helicopter in the sky. It was tracking. They were able to get police in behind it, and it was right here where it crashed at the end of that pursuit. In handcuffs after a police pursuit, a crash, and then a foot chase. One of 2 suspects believed to have shot and injured an off-duty MPD captain in D.C., being searched before being loaded into a Prince George's County police car. The getaway car up on its side after colliding with another vehicle. Many officers from several police agencies gathering at the scene along Landover Road. A police dog brought in to search for a gun tossed from the blue Honda just before the crash. A crime scene technician later picking up what appears to be a ghost gun, recognizable by its green color. Sources telling me the suspects are both 21 years old. They suffered only very minor injuries in the crash, which ended their run from police. Now they're facing a long list of charges in the district. Yeah, now I got an update. One of the suspects now is facing those charges. It was the passenger in that blue vehicle who was observed getting out and opening fire, and they believe it was the passenger that we saw being arrested here as well. So that person is going to be charged. We don't know how the driver of that vehicle will yet be handled.
Well, we're going to go check back in now with our live crew in Northwest Washington after a Metropolitan Police officer was shot while in his personal vehicle on the way to work.
And this all happened only minutes from a police station where he drove himself and was then rushed to the hospital. And the police chief says that officer is expected to be okay.
Rebecca Turco joining us now live. And Rebecca, you've been out there since this story broke. The scene just cleared a little while ago, we understand, but this spanned several blocks.
Several blocks were blocked off. We actually had to keep driving around when we first got here just to find somewhere to park so that we could see what was going on. But as you can see, 7th Street now back open to the public, back open to traffic after police spent about 4.5 hours here really processing the scene. And actually, we want to show you some video new into our newsroom. We're just learning that police are in the process of processing that police captain's car. So we're going to continue following all of this. And one witness told us she actually saw a black SUV driving off after she heard the gunshots, and that SUV matches the description of the police captain's car. So what we know so far, the whole ordeal happened just after noon today. We know the captain was heading into work in his personal car, and that's when he saw a car driving erratically. Apparently the car stopped, a man got out, went up to the captain's car and shot him. Now, the captain was able to get a partial plate number, and that's how police were eventually able to catch up with the car over in Landover, Maryland. And we're told the captain was actually able to drive himself to the 4th District Police Station nearby, and from there he was transported to the hospital. So obviously this is a developing story, but the good news here, we are told the captain is expected to be okay, and he's recovering in the hospital tonight. We're going to keep following this, and coming up at 6, we're going to hear reaction from neighbors who tell us they heard 3 gunshots ring out earlier. For now, reporting live in Northwest D.C., Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
Rebecca, thanks. We're already seeing reaction to today's shooting on social media. Less than an hour ago, the D.C. Police Union sent out this tweet saying the lawlessness and the danger to law enforcement continues. We've done extensive reporting on the union criticizing the council and blaming them for the understaffed police department. But again, they're glad to report that the captain will be okay and the suspects taken into custody. A lot of people were shocked by this. This person here said this happened right in front of my sister's school. Very frightening, I'm sure. And this person putting it here, crime in our nation's capital is so bad, a D.C. police officer was shot today on his way to work. Certainly a feeling that many of us had today watching this story. Scott?
2 men are in custody after a D.C. police officer was shot just after noon in Upper Northwest. Good evening, I'm Scott Thuman. There's been a lot of evolving details throughout the day, so we're going to begin with just the facts from the chief. That officer saw a car driving erratically before it suddenly stopped. A man got out and shot into the SUV. The injured officer drove himself to the nearby police station, where he was rushed to the hospital and is expected to be okay. Now, while that happened, the getaway car was pursued into Prince George's County, where it crashed in Landover. D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith said it could have been anyone, not just an officer, who was shot, and that the neighborhood rallied to help catch the suspected gunman.
I also want to thank the community. The community was very, very helpful in providing us with video and information to ensure that we apprehended these suspects very quickly.
The chief told 7 News her wounded officer is a captain who's been with them for 18 years now. 7 News has team coverage at each point on the map. Our Rebecca Turco is hearing from neighbors in Upper Northwest. But first, we're going to get to Maryland Bureau Chief Brad Bell. He is in Landover and has new information about the weapon that was recovered in this arrest. Brad?
Yeah, Scott, no official word from the police, but we saw it. Looked very clearly to be one of those things we're hearing so much about so often, a ghost gun, green in color, often made with polymers. Now, I have learned from sources a little more detail about that claim of erratic driving. What I've learned is that the suspect vehicle was actually behind, then next to, then in front of the victim, of the police officer. So sort of going like that. The police officer trying to get away, at some point pulling out cell phone to record what was going on. That is when the suspect vehicle pulled over, and the allegation is that the passenger got out and opened fire. The police officer was able to get a partial license plate. That showed up on license plate readers. Helicopter in the sky saw it, led police to a chase. That chase ending in a crash right here. That is one of the two suspects wanted for shooting the MPD officer in handcuffs, being searched by Prince George's police. He stands just feet away from the blue Honda the pair crashed at the end of a pursuit out of the district and into Maryland. Both suspects taken to a hospital for checkups for very minor injuries from the crash. According to police sources, both suspects are 21 years old. Witnesses describe seeing the car running south on 202 with several police cars chasing, ending up on its side after crashing into another vehicle. Just before the crash, officers seeing the passenger toss a gun out the window, a police dog finding it very quickly in the tall grass along the road, a crime scene technician picking it up to package as evidence. Now, what we're being told at this point is that both of those suspects remain in Prince George's County Police custody. I can tell you that one of them, the alleged shooter, does have priors, multiple prior arrests for crimes involving guns. In Landover, Brad Bell, 7 News.
All right, thank you, Brad. And our team coverage continues in the Northwest Washington neighborhood where that shooting happened. It's just a couple of blocks away from the 4th District Police Station where the wounded captain works. Rebecca Turco is hearing from a neighbor who saw the officer drive for help just after that shooting. Rebecca?
Good evening. Well, she tells us she saw a black SUV, tinted windows, speed off immediately after she heard 3 gunshots ring out. And that car description actually matches the description of the captain's car, which we actually have video of for you, of the captain's SUV being driven away after he had driven himself to that 4th District Police Station. And I caught up with neighbors who described the moments those shots rang out.
We just heard about 3 shots at the corner of Oglethorpe and 7, and then immediately saw a large black SUV with completely dark tinted windows speed down the street.
I heard 3 shots, and I'm used to hearing sirens and things like that in the area, but never that. It sounded really close, so I didn't really know, and then all of a sudden there were helicopters and sirens everywhere.
And those women say this whole ordeal today was frightening and that it was certainly unexpected. They're still getting their bearings around everything. And as for that police captain, again, he is recovering in the hospital and is expected to be okay. Reporting live in Northwest D.C., Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. I want to show you now this image that was captured by 7 News photojournalist Ben Rice. You can actually see right here where that bullet pierced the passenger side window on the officer's SUV. It's right about head height. Again, we're told the officer's injuries are not life-threatening, but it could have been an even greater tragedy that we're talking about today. The chief also shared during her briefing with reporters that neighbors provided video and information while the officer gave a description of the car and the license plate. She said that information allowed the new real-time crime center to help track the getaway car.
Right now, a D.C. police captain is recovering after being shot while driving to work. 7 News covering both crime scenes today in Northwest D.C. and in Prince George's County. The 2 suspects were arrested in Landover after crashing their car. And that officer was shot just blocks from a police station. He is expected to be okay. 7 News' Christian Flores is breaking down the chain of events.
And I heard boom, boom, boom.
As the sound of gunshots echoed off the walls of homes in this community along 7th and Oglethorpe Streets Northwest, neighbors were left worried they were in the line of fire.
Was out in the front with my dog, just playing in the yard. And then we just heard about 3 shots.
So I was home with the 2-month-old. We were rocking on the back porch. And then I heard 3 shots.
People just don't value lives anymore. It's really kind of sad. And then I was getting a little concerned, like what's going on in the neighborhood, which is relatively a quiet neighborhood, so when you see that going on, you get a little unnerved.
Sources confirmed to 7 News an off-duty captain with MPD was driving in his personal car on the way to work when he saw a car driving erratically behind him, then next to him, before getting in front of him. That's when a shooter got out of the passenger seat and shot at the police captain, leaving him with non-life-threatening injuries. The captain sent a partial license plate number to dispatch, which relayed that information to the real-time crime center.
As soon as the partial plate information came out, our real-time crime center pushed out a notification of the vehicle and the plate. Our Falcon and our officers began to canvass the area.
Our cameras captured the arrest of one suspect, plus what appears to be a gun. Sources tell 7 News the alleged shooter has been arrested several times for gun charges. And despite the arrest, neighbors remain uneasy.
It's good that we have something that is tracking down those who are breaking the law. But the bottom line of it, any of us are never going to feel safe if crime keeps happening.
Compared to this time last year, violent crime overall is down 27% in the district, and that's according to MPD data. Homicides are down 26% and carjackings are down 32%.
And despite falling numbers, crime is still a concern. Right now, a D.C. police captain is recovering after being shot while driving to work. It happened yesterday on 7th Street Northwest. D.C. police say the off-duty officer was in his personal vehicle when he noticed a car driving erratically. The car stopped in front of the officer. Then one suspect got out of the vehicle and fired at the officer. Well, that officer was hit, but was able to get a partial plate and call it into the department before driving himself to the 4th District Police Station. 7 News spoke with people who live nearby who heard the shots.
So I was home with the 2-month-old. We were rocking on the back porch. And then I heard 3 shots.
People just don't value lives anymore. It's really kind of sad. And then I was getting a little concerned, like what's going on in the neighborhood, which is relatively a quiet neighborhood. So when you see that going on, you get a little unnerved.
Yeah, the officer that was shot is expected to be okay. Our cameras captured the arrest of one suspect, plus what appears to be a gun. Now, sources tell 7 News the suspected shooter has been arrested several times for gun charges. Meantime, D.C.'s police chief also shared during her briefing with reporters that neighbors provided video and information while the officer gave a description of the car and license plate. She said that information allowed the new real-time crime center to help track the getaway car.